Hi, good afternoon. My name is Lawton Sugihara. I am with Hawaii Gas, but I'm also on the 2014 Home Show Committee. And this early evening, we have a photovoltaic and solar facts on our next workshop. The panelists for this workshop will be Kathryn Williams, KIUC Energy Services Supervisor, who will be followed by Dean Fukumoto, Territory Manager for Certainty Roofing Products, and Nathan Wood, owner of Nathan Wood Construction, who is a licensed general contractor with licenses for solar installation, electrical contracting, and is an electrical journeyman in the state of Hawaii. This panel will not have time to field questions, but you can find Kathy at the KIUC booth. Dean will be at the HPM Building Supply booth, and Nathan will be at the Renewable Energy Technologies booth after this presentation. So, Kathy, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. We are going to try and move through this fairly quickly, and if, like he said, if you have questions, I'll be available at the booth, and Tim Bloom, who's sitting in the back of the room, will also be available. Just by way of introduction, and so you know how KIUC works with its members, anytime something happens with the meter, KIUC's relationship is with you, the member, the customer. So when you're putting on a PV system or thinking about that, sorry, better. Got a high sign from the back, couldn't be heard. Anyway, when you're thinking about something with your meter, we work from your meter socket out. So if you're doing anything that's on the roof, the only thing we're concerned about is, does it meet specifications? Are we able to safely integrate it into the KIUC grid? Okay? There are several reasons you may want to consider putting on PV. You want to go green. You'd like to reduce your electric bill, or maybe you'd like to think you're going to be able to make some money by selling back to KIUC because you're going to oversize your system. Some of the considerations that we've been asked to talk, or I've been asked to talk about tonight, are some of the impacts that you may want to think about. The biggest one is probably if you have a very small electric bill, say you're retired, you're on a fixed income, you're the only one at home, your electric bill's about $100. Financially, it's not going to be worth it for you to do it, unless you have the money and you want to go green. It's totally up to you. Right now, there are tax credits in place, both federal and state. The federal, as long as you have enough taxable income, you can get up to 30% reduction on your federal taxes. And in the state of Hawaii, you can get 35% up to a $5,000 max, or actual costs, whichever is less. Right now, you would be, if you do decide to put on a PV system, you'll be buying from KIUC at a residential rate, and it's hovering right around 42 cents. And the Schedule Q rate, or what is considered at KIUC an avoided cost, has been right around 22, 23 cents lately. But I want to go through an explanation of what that Schedule Q is. Historically, the Schedule Q rate has been as low as 10 cents to pay you back per kilowatt hour, and as high as 29 cents. And like I said, right now it's around 22 cents. And that's to produce or to export to KIUC 1 kilowatt hour. The PUC has asked all of the electric utilities in the state of Hawaii to propose, make suggestions about how that Q rate might be delinked or removed from the cost of fossil fuel. So KIUC, along with the other companies, made some suggestions, but the PUC hasn't made a final decision. They will be the ones that will be making that final decision and letting us know how that Q rate will be calculated. One of the things that they're looking at, however, is the cost of the Q rate being based on renewable costs to produce, in other words, renewable energy sources to produce a kilowatt of hour, as opposed to the cost of oil to produce a kilowatt of hour. So, or a kilowatt hour. I can get that right. One of the things that you really need to be concerned about is what's your risk, your investment tolerance risk. If you have a fairly high risk and you don't mind if you make as low as 10 or 15 cents per kilowatt hour that you export to KIUC, then you're good to go. If you think you're going to always be able to make somewhere in the neighborhood of 22, 23 cents, that's not going to happen. So you need to look at your own risk tolerance, like your investment counselor would tell you. One of the other things that needs to be considered, if you see everyone in your neighborhood has put on a PV system, and you go into KIUC, and your system happens to be the one that tips the transformer, in other words, that the transformer for the neighborhood can no longer handle the load that's being exported to it, unfortunately, your system will be the one that will have to bear the cost of upgrading that transformer. So it's something else to consider before you actually sign up for a PV system. The last thing that I just want to cover briefly is the KIUC interconnection process for a PV system. And this process is for systems that are 10 kW or 10 kilowatts or less. Actually less than 10 kilowatts. Anything else is handled by the engineering department upstairs. At our booth, there are copies of this process available for you. And if you want a complete packet that has all of the forms behind it, you can go to the KIUC website and you can download and print the entire packet there. But there are three things you're going to need to start the interconnection process with KIUC. And the first thing is an interconnection application, and it's 3 pages long. You'll have to fill out part of it and sign it, and your contractor will also be filling out part of it because they're going to be giving some sizes and specifications on your PV system. The next, again, is a dual fill-out form. It's a Schedule Q agreement. You will be putting the information down about how your mailing address, your phone number, your email address, etc. You'll be signing it at the end. And in the middle will be, again, your contractor, actually the electrician, will complete his information, his license number, how we can reach him. But the Schedule Q agreement is what you are agreeing to with KIUC. And you need to remember that Schedule Q rate is a fluctuating rate, just like the residential rate fluctuates every month. Okay? The last thing that you're going to need, and these will be from your contractor, are drawings and specifications. To get started, a simple one-line drawing will suffice. We'll need more detailed information once the process moves along. One of the largest things we want you to remember, or one of the most significant things we want you to remember, is that you may not, under any circumstances, turn that system on before you get an authorization from KIUC that says we're good to go. Before you get that, and we call it an authorization to operate in parallel, you're going to get 2 other notices before that time. The first is that we've received the 3 things that we need to get you started: the interconnection application, the Q agreement, and the drawings and schematics. If everything's okay, or if everything's good, we'll send you an email that says, hey, we received your application. It'll go upstairs to engineering for review. If it comes back down, and we'll send you another notice if everything's okay, and that is called a notice to proceed. So once you get that notice to proceed, your contractor can go ahead and put the PV on your roof, ground mount, wherever you happen to be placing it. When the contractor is finished installing, it needs to get a final inspection. The system needs to get a final inspection by the county. We'll need a copy of that, and usually the contractor sends that to us. And we also need a certification of completion. And again, the contractor fills out that information and sends it to us. Once we receive that information, we are going to review everything, send it out to the field. They do what is called by tariff a witness test, basically a verification that everything is installed the way your contractor said it should be installed, and they will then verify that the system is connected. They send us paperwork, and we then send you the final notice to authorization to operate in parallel. When you receive that notice, that final authorization, then you can turn your system on, okay? For some of you that may have old meters, if you don't have one of the new standard meters, there's a possibility that your meter could run forward if you turn it on beforehand. But even more important than that, we want to keep our KIUC personnel safe when they come out, because they don't know if the system has been turned on or not. According to all of our records, it hasn't. And there's the other factor that if you're backfeeding into the grid and exporting power without authorization, there may be some damage to the transformer. So those are two things to consider. Lately, we've had a couple of calls from members, and they said that a contractor had told them that once KIUC brings on the Kiuc photovoltaic field, that KIUC will no longer be accepting interconnection applications. And I just want to let you know that, no, that's not true. We still intend to accept interconnection applications. You just may want to be careful about how large your system is, and again, unless you have a high risk tolerance for your investment or your return on your investment. That's all I have for you. I am going to turn the time over to Dean, all right? And he's going to talk to you about roofing.